Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to the One Bitcoin Show. Today is November the 10th, 2020. A good day. A good day. Strong hand. Don't be an algorithm slave or a simp. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. We'll talk about that algorithm thing in a second. One day closer to an all-time high. I am offended by selling. Conviction in motion. We're going to talk about being in motion in this golden age. Even Andy Hoffman is in motion and scoring big goals. All right. Hello, my elite friends. Yes, you might not be watching this on November 10th. I'm giving you some evergreen subjects here just in case you're watching this on my main channel a little bit later, because this will appear on my main channel at some point. Right now, we're on the backup channel because guess what? YouTube, at least for a week, hopefully less than a week, because I had bad links in videos from 2017 and 2018. You've heard it by now. I can't post on my main channel or do a live show there for a week. So that started yesterday. So we'll see. Hey, I appreciate the guys who retweeted the tweet where I asked YouTube to actually think and not be an algorithm slave, but they're not doing that. You can retweet it. It's linked to below. All right, let me give you some advice that Ben Shapiro is giving out there. If you want to fight back against social media censorship, subscribe to the outlets that don't parrot the approved establishment media narrative. So, of course, I am on Parler. Okay? I'm frustrated with what YouTube has done to my channel. At least they didn't shut it completely down. You can watch all my videos over there. Unfortunately, these new videos I'm doing here, at least for the time being, I can't add them to disruptmeister.com either. My bookmarking ability on my main channel has even been taken away. But let's go back to what Ben Shapiro says here. A lot of you want to fight back against social media censorship. Yes, there is social media censorship right there. So subscribe to the outlets that don't parrot the establishment media narrative. Join Parler. Use the crypto Parler hashtag. So in our realm, in our Bitcoin realm, that's what we're building over there in Parler, on Parler, just in case Twitter decides to get rid of all the Bitcoin people. No, I'm not saying that's happening, but it's fun. A lot of you have been proactive, have listened to what I said, and are following me at Bitcoin Meister on Parler. So pound that like button here on YouTube, pound that Parler button, parlay, and go over there. I'm Bitcoin Meister over there, and you can see I'm following UK Bitcoin Master, so you can follow him. Also, it's real easy to find us. Now, I joined LBRY, okay? And I linked to that below. My account there is Bitcoin Meister. They're still moving my videos, my YouTube videos over there. Maybe they're having trouble doing it because of the situation with my YouTube channel right now. I don't know, but you can, I'm Bitcoin Meister on LBRY. And so go over there. Hey, be in motion, or you can just complain. I'm competing. I'm putting myself out there. And I want to talk about putting yourself out there. But I've been doing this for years now, and it's paid off quite nicely. I've spoken at events and met all sorts of nice people and found out all sorts of inside information. Andy Hoffman is another guy who puts himself out there, okay? And he is now the marketing director of the Digital Lending Capital Corp, DLCC.co. Now, I've talked about this before. We don't have to get into what Digital Lending Capital Corp does. But how did this happen? How did he all of a sudden become the marketing director over there? Because he's been talking for years and years about Bitcoin. He, has interacted with so many people. Someone that he knew told him about this company, and they needed some marketing help. And he said, "Yeah, I can help you with marketing. I can help you." And one thing led to another, and then they make him the marketing director. Okay. So the lesson here is, in this space, There's all of these entities that are growing, that are blooming, and they need staff. And he doesn't have to go work in some office. He's doing it from his house, okay? You could do the same thing. You contact a random company. You think they need something. You tell them what you can provide. You tell them your history. You point to this tweet you made, this video you made, this, I've been out there for 5 years, 2 years, whatever it is. There's a chance they will hire you. I mean, even go to dlcc.co and see what they're up to. Maybe if they just hire Andy Hoffman like that, maybe they'll hire you. And a lot of people in Bitcoin, I know the Bitcoin Inquisition people, they don't want to work for a company that might touch an altcoin or something, or you might have such strict standards you can't work for any company. Okay, I mean that's your personal business. But here, truly in Bitcoin, in the space, we can have debates. We can have disagreements, all right? We can have that here. And so there's no strict law of Bitcoin. There is the base layer of Bitcoin. There's only ever going to be 21 million of them. That's very important. That's our rule of law base layer. There's no arbitrary decisions like happen in YouTube and social media. There's no dictator randomly changing the rules like we have with these social media companies, okay? I think in what we've forgotten, there's so many entities out there that want to silence people. That's the new normal, like silencing people, that's going to make people comfortable. You have true freedom when you can say when you can debate, that you live in a place where there are disagreements, okay? Peaceful disagreements. In the Bitcoin space, we have peaceful disagreements all the time. You can fork off, you can stick around, you can bring your side of the story up. We have debate here. It seems like in mainstream society, there's some people that just don't want debate anymore. This is the way it is. This is the truth. The dictator says it's the truth, and we will randomly shut you off if you do not go with our truth, okay? With what we define as the truth. So that's a beautiful thing about being in the Bitcoin space, that we do have debate. And I mean, you could be an inquisitionist in the space, and okay, then you go your way, I'll go my way, but we're still here together. We're still here in the space. We don't have to be united on everything. I think everyone puts being united on a pedestal. Okay, North Korea is very united. They don't have debate. They all agree. They're as united as you can get. So that's the extreme of being quote unquote united. That's the extreme of where everybody gets along, where there is no debate, where there are no disagreements in North Korea. There are none. There are none. So I love the direction that we're going here in the land of Bitcoin. And we have rule of law. That's the base. The funny thing is, in mainstream society today, they're getting rid of the rule of law, and thus you can have arbitrary changing of the rules. And I mean, there's no rule. Is there a rule of law on YouTube and Twitter? Is there really a rule? I mean, they come up with new ones every day, so that's not very stable at all. And thus, you don't know what you can really say. I mean, on you all the time on YouTube, I'm saying, well, you can't say this word, you can't say that word. That's not how it is in Bitcoin. Uncensorable. Okay, it's uncensorable. And in the community itself, you cannot be censored. All right, where are we going? So there's no, and in many coins, they like the centralization of the dictator making the rules that can change willy-nilly, and you can be kicked out, etc. Things can be reversed. That is not the way in Bitcoin. In YouTube, everything gets reversed, right? For some people, that you can say something, and then it's governed by. There's no logic in YouTube the way it's governed. It's somehow they fed some algorithm, and it does what it does. And there's no, you can't argue with it. You can't discuss with it. That's it. It's the final decision. All right. So I've tried to combine the current random. The current event situation with what we have here. Be a unique beast. That's all I can recommend. Be a unique beast. Now, I'm going to bring up something. The Litecoin people continue to email me, but I will say they got an interesting concept. And if you are interested in it, they're having a meeting on November 17th, and I will link to that below. What is a velvet fork? It's not exactly a soft fork. It's not exactly a hard fork. They're kind of partnering up with Cardano through this velvet fork. Discussions with Dionysus, which used to be a name of a bar in Baltimore, by the way. Pound that like button. I got drunk there. From and don't again. That was back in the day. Value your wealth in health and Bitcoin, not in getting drunk there. But yeah, this dude Dionysus from IOHK on the Litecoin velvet fork. How would this affect both Litecoin and Cardano? Okay, if you're interested in that kind of, I say, hey, dude, I predicted mergers of coins. Now, this is not exactly a merger of a coin, but it's a partnership. I predicted partnership of coins too. And so I mentioned this before, but November 17th, if you're really interested in that type of stuff, and compete, don't complain. They can do what they want to do over there. It doesn't hurt me. It doesn't bother me. I'm not really that interested in it, but I'm just telling you, had a cool name, Velvet Fork. I like that. Velvet, Litecoin Velvet Fork. But it's not really a fork. So what is it? Oh, you find out and pound that like button. Find out on November 17th. That's a week. Wow, I'll be home. I'll be in Baltimore in 2 weeks. My flight leaves here. Oh, well, wow, time is going by. Hey, by the way, does anybody know a warm place I can go to after Phoenix? Oh, yeah, ask questions. I type in, do whatever you do to get my attention. I see Roman Q typed in my name. Isn't it beautiful that Bitcoin doesn't have a leader that can be dragged in front of Congress and hassled? Yes, it is. Yes, it is great. Hey, retweet this, the tweet that promoted this show so people know that we're live and that I'm on the backup channel now. Okay, I'm just seeing if there were any other questions. People were saying hi to each other. Okay, cool. All right. Someone says, wouldn't one be an algorithm slave to believe that the Biden won the election? No, not at all. I mean, there's plenty. It's a tremendous claim to say there was massive fraud in many states. That there was, I mean, there's fraud every election. There's no doubt about it. That's why it's a dirty game, man, and why I don't want to deal with politics. But no, if you say no because CNN said it, it's true. That's blind. That's not using your head. But if you think logically, the numbers are in, and Biden is ahead. All right, and the other side, through legal means, have to present reasonable proof of massive voter fraud. I mean, that's the only way this can be overturned, if the other side can. And so that is a hard thing to prove. That is again, there's enough voter fraud in enough states to change the election. That's a lot. That's a lot. So logically, if you are reasonable and you don't let your emotions get in the way, you got to think like, yeah, most likely it is what it is. Biden won. Sure. I mean, in Detroit, there could have been massive. In Detroit, it looks like there were some issues. So does that mean that Donald Trump won Wisconsin? I mean, it doesn't go together there. Yeah. So if the only way that Donald Trump could win is if there was a coordinated, massive multi-state massive voter fraud campaign. Okay, massive. This would be a very high-level conspiracy that would have to emanate from the highest ranks of the Democratic Party. That's a lot to ask right there. That's a big. I mean, it's a lot more logical that people hate Donald Trump, and that a lot of people had mail-in votes this time that usually don't. And it's what I said the other day. So if you just take CNN's word for it, yeah, of course you're being an algorithm simp there. But I mean, if you use logic and reason, and if you've been living on this planet since March, you can see why Donald Trump lost. I mean, it's quite a reasonable expectation. I thought Donald Trump would lose. I talked about it. So yeah, don't say, well, CNN said it's true. And you're also an algorithm when you say, well, wait a second, why can't I say the other side of the story? Why can't I talk about what's going on in Detroit? I mean, it's ridiculous. So people are rightfully paranoid, I think, a little. I don't know if that's the correct word. That why are the social media giants censoring everything? Why can't they've gone to a ridiculous extreme to keep certain stories quiet? And some stories are bigger than others. About the Biden's son, that was a big story. That was before the election, though. So yeah, the social media platforms, they influence before the election. They try and influence after the election. They, if you won the election, if you were Biden, you would want this thing to go as smoothly as possible right now. And the social media people are making it go as smoothly as possible for the people who don't, take the extra steps to do some research. And that's why I love Bitcoin. We can have debates. There are people in the Bitcoin space that are debating politics right now, and no one's silencing. Well, Twitter is silencing some of them, but that's the difference. That's the big difference. And so, in the social media world, we can agree that freedom in the social media world is going down the toilet right now. But that doesn't mean necessarily that there is a huge top level Democratic conspiracy to make Biden the president. I mean, you can have two. Joe Biden can be the elected president of the United States, fair and square, and we can still have all sorts of crazy censorship going on and all sorts of desires by people in his circles to silence people. And that's why it's good to not worry about politics and not put all your eggs in one basket, and understand how the system, the political system works. Because again, all these people crying about Donald Trump, the Senate is remaining Republican. Joe Manchin, who's a Democrat, said he will not vote for all the radical stuff that the far left is proposing. Joe Manchin, a Democrat from West Virginia, because he's using logic and reason also. There's still a few. He won't be able to. The people have spoken, okay? The people have spoken. They do not want radical change in the United States of America that we've been hearing about from the media, from these crazy BLM, LM posts and BLM protesters, and who are the other protesters, the Antifa protesters that are, we want to tell no more capitalism, no more Senate. Let's add states. Let's pack the courts. All sorts of ridiculous things. Logical people see that most people, even in the Midwest, where he might have lost, don't want that. So this guy in West Virginia, he knows if he supports the craziness, he's not going to be able to win re-election again. And there's probably other people just like that. So even if the Georgia, and the way it's going to go down in Georgia, I think both Republicans will win in Georgia. But we have checks and balances in this country, and most people don't realize it. And so many of these Trump supporters don't even realize how things work and how good this election was for Republicans. Let me repeat myself. This election was very good for Republicans. Yet the Democrats had a conspiracy. There was a Democrat conspiracy, a conspiracy like no other conspiracy in the history of the United States of America. You do realize that if some of these things that people are saying are true, that it was fake in Wisconsin, it was fake in Michigan, it was fake in Georgia, it was fake in Arizona, it was fake in Nevada, that this would be the biggest political story of all time, the biggest political corruption of all time in the United States. This would have to be by far. But yet still, on the Senate and Congress side, it was very because if you want power, if you want massive power, wouldn't you have rigged the Georgia elections? And that's about it. That's no. So all right, the Georgia. When I say the Georgia elections, the Georgia Senate elections. All right. No, eventually you said no one is crying. I mean, no one is rioting. But there are people who are just reposting fake stuff that's out. There's real stuff that's out there, but there are people that just want it so badly to be true. They want it so badly to be true that Trump won, and it doesn't even matter that much that Trump lost. It has been a great election cycle for Republicans. The people of America have said, we don't want insanity here. We don't want insanity. So they're not going, the things to worry that people were legitimately worried about. Biden's going to bring on socialism. Biden's going to bring on this, that, and the other. He can't bring it on. He can't without the Senate. So, I hope they make AOC press secretary. No, she's still, AOC might cause that party to split up. The Republican Party could split up too. All right. Okay, so you say Trump. I mean, it takes extraordinary proof to prove that Trump won. I still need the extraordinary proof in quite a few states, not just. And hey, let the legal process happen. They have filed in Michigan, at least. There are real lawsuits. There's the Trump team. Let them. I have no problem. There are a lot of people out there that are like, no, he should concede. If they know something, they shouldn't concede. There are legal rule. I'm just for the rule of law here. And so I think what the Trump team is part of the rule of law. They're going to present some evidence to judges all around, but people have to understand basic math here. The numbers are pretty big. They're going to have to show massive in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. I mean, big numbers have to be, and it just can't be, Sandra over in Detroit, put 500 votes in for Trump and for Biden. And that's not good enough. We're talking hundreds of thousands of votes here in multiple states. So, I mean, people need to take a step back and just realize it's not the end of the world that he lost. And it's quite the bigger news stories. The Republicans have retained the Senate, and that the Republicans gained in the Congress, which means that all these people who voted are not down with AOC. They're not down with AOC. Most voters are not down with AOC. Okay. So we went a little bit beyond Bitcoin, but what the heck? And I'm sure this will still be evergreen next week when it. I'm sure people will still be talking about it and so I mean, going back to the main point about people don't want debate anymore. I think that's what is frustrating for people right now. Whether you're being on YouTube, you get kicked off of YouTube for saying something, you get kicked off of Twitter, or you hear some celebrity just screaming and cursing at Trump to concede. There's no other side of this story. There can be debate, peaceful debate. We have to get to the point of peaceful debate. We don't want to get to the point of the opposite of that, because you end up in a dictatorial situation. But we don't have to be united. We don't have to be. You can have peaceful debate. That's what the United States is about. Having 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 sides of a story, letting it play out legally, and see how it goes. See how this turns out. So yeah, I think a lot of what's being thrown out there on social media through the people who are just like, shut up and concede, that is dictatorial. That's fascistic. Okay, for the good of the state, for the good of the country, we must be united. So he should give up. I mean, people have such short memories too. Did Al Gore concede? No, Al Gore didn't concede. He went through the legal processes in Florida, and then it had to go to the Supreme Court. That's a legal process also. Okay, so Donald Trump is doing exactly what Al Gore did it. But Donald Trump is bombacious. Obviously, he has much more personality than Al Gore, to say the least. And people should really be used to it at this point. Al Gore set the precedent. Nothing like that had ever happened in politics before in the United States, where there was usually the night of, who won. That's it. It's over. So that went on until January. Okay. So were these same celebrities saying Al Gore shut up, just accept that Bush is the president? No, they weren't saying that at all. So and that's the right thing. If there are irregularities, and surely, I mean, there's always going to be irregularities in elections. But if you suspect major irregularities, then yeah, don't concede. Definitely don't concede. You're not just a simp to just give up. But and at the same time, if you're a pundit, you can say, well, present this extraordinary evidence. We're waiting for the extraordinary evidence. It appears, due to current events, it's quite logical that the president would not be voted in. And, the polls show that the president was not going to win. Now, they were off by a lot, of course. So let's go back. Let's go to Ethereum here real quick. And I hope play this at 2x, people, if you don't want that political stuff. Ethereum 2.0 coming soon. We've talked about this. This is going to be a new thing, keeping an eye on them, because they said they're going to be December 1st. They need to raise 524,000 Ethereum, and they're not on that pace right now. They're on to be locked up in the Ethereum 2.0 contract. Meanwhile, despite the impressive numbers and high stakes, a bigger push is required from Ethereum users to prevent the Genesis block of Ethereum 2.0, which requires a minimum stake of 524,000 Ethereum from being delayed further. At press time, 473,956 more Ethereum is needed to be locked up. At the current pace, this won't be filled until late December. So if they get a late night surge in Ethereum being locked up, they're going to be able to pull this off on December 1st. But right now their pace is behind the scenes. So they're going to be people that are Ethereum haters that are just going to look, Ethereum's horrible. They can't even raise what they said they were going to need to raise by December 1st. I'm not one of those people. I think they might be able to. I think they'll be able to pull it off. And if they pull it off, it's another reason why it's quite legitimate. And they'll get there eventually. Maybe they shouldn't have had a December 1st goal, but maybe they should have, because that's going to influence more people to get in on it. All right, pound that like button. Now, and I do want to point again to all the people in the world that say how wicked the United States is, how bad the United States is, how horrible it is. I mean, you've got all these guys from Peter McCormick to whoever that make it their business to worry about the United States election. So, I mean, if we're so horrible, if why do you care? Just do you worry about England? Worry about it? I mean, it's we don't have free. They say that it's on the verge of a fascistic dictatorship, and under Trump, there's so little freedoms. Isn't it in all of England that's being locked up right now? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, we have separate states. We have checks and balances. In the United States during this whole virus nonsense, certain states have been pretty, annoying. Like California, it was annoying. South Dakota has been great. The system here, the political system is set up here where you don't have these bottleneck dictatorial bottleneck possibilities, okay? That's the beauty of the United States. That's why it's the best. And and you can tell it's the best because the whole world is interested. The whole world's got a rip on it. Compete, don't complain. If you think Donald Trump is so horrible and that Joe Biden is the Messiah, I mean, well, what's your country doing? I mean, you compete, do better than us. Do better. Surely you can do better than 70-year-old men, right? That are in charge of a constitutional republic. And remember, that's what it is. It's not a democracy. With a democracy, with people are like, oh, we can't. You can speak your mind in a democracy. Actually, in a pure democracy, and that's again, that's the beauty here of Bitcoin. Also, it's not a pure democracy. It was a pure. You could change. Things would be changed. Really, in a pure democracy, the 51% dictate with the 49. You can make the 49% slaves and you're stuck. You're stuck. In Bitcoin, you can fork off there. There are all these other options, but people are screaming about there's no democracy in the United States. Well, imagine if there was democracy in the United States. They could vote in a law. The people, the 49% that we hate, they're not allowed to speak anymore. There's not allowed to be arguments anymore. Okay, that's why it's a constitutional republic. That constitution is supposed to be the freaking bedrock, just like the 21 million in Bitcoin is the bedrock. And then all these. So in these the corporations are democracies, but they don't have bedrocks. There's no bedrock in social media saying, you can't silence this person, and it can't be willy-nilly. No, that's it. So it's really, social media is willy-nilly arbitrary stuff. And again, what Ben Shapiro said is, if you're tired of the arbitrary aspects of stuff, go to Parler, go to other platforms. And you have to hand it to Parler. They are not censoring these and BitChute. They're not. They're letting the other side speak. It's becoming ridiculous on some of the things that are being like pseudo censored on Twitter. Like it'll be a document, a legal document, and you'll have to click on it twice in order to to get through like the warning, the election has been decided type of stuff. And I can see how that would make people paranoid. But this is the problem when you let algorithms take over. Okay, they program the algorithms a certain way, and that these algorithms are taking things down, are shutting down debate. They shouldn't be shutting down at all. And you would ask some of the real human beings over there, should this legal document be censored by Twitter? And they probably say, oh, wait a second, no, it's just a legal document from a court in Michigan. What the heck? Well, you mean this is what happens when you become an algorithm situation here, and when you're trying to curtail debate. There's no doubt that they have built these algorithms to silence some form of debates. But when you let those things out in the wild, you don't know what you end up with. What you end up with is like a show, or my shows from 3 years ago being getting a strike on them because there were bad links that now appear to be. And I got rid of the links. It's so stupid. Okay, now. All right, so still trying to tie everything together. This is becoming a Beyond Bitcoin type of show every Sunday. We have that. Well, here's a even in our space, in our media space here in cryptocurrency land, you still have these 80%er stories that people fall for. This one on the 20%er scale, I say it's only a 4. I mean, which is bad, which is 80%er. Weather balloon program, West African program will store weather data on Telos blockchain. Why do you? It involves Africa. It involves weather storage on the blockchain. It involves an altcoin. That's not very 20%er here. So for me, that's some complexity worship right there. They're free to do that. It sounds like something BSV does. Don't they have weather programs too? So I don't know if that really. I don't know if that exactly. They're free to do that, but I don't know how big of a problem weather balloon data is that you need a blockchain for. I mean, it seems like you just have a nice centralized database everyone can access a lot easier, and you wouldn't have to complicate. So it's complexity worship. I guess that's the saying that best describes. But you get so many stories like that. It's always got to be with Africa and storing stuff on some altcoin somewhere. They're free to do it. But we have in the mainstream crypto media, there's a lot of noise here. It's a lot of noise. So when you get fed these stories, and they're clickbaity stories, people they're intriguing. They about Africa. Oh wow! So people expect Bitcoin to be something that it isn't, and thus, like, oh, I should diversify into these coins that deal with weather in Africa. And you can see how people can be led down that path. And that's why I occasionally bring up these stories that I think are completely ridiculous and try to give them rankings there. So that one's only a 4 on the 20%er scale. I mean, what's a 10 on the 20%er scale? It would just be like, today is the halving. Every 4 years, every 210,000 blocks, Bitcoin, new Bitcoin becomes more scarce. It is digital gold. But that's a pretty boring story. You don't get a lot of clicks on that. All right. What's this? Every discussion about Bitcoin's monetary policy is completely pointless, says Knut Vansholm. Bitcoin is the way Bitcoin is. No one can change that. And that's the whole point. Absolute digital scarcity could only be discovered once. Attempted copies are meaningless at best. So that is the constitution of Bitcoin right there, okay? That's what, it cannot be changed, that the scarcity aspect of it. If it was changed, it wouldn't be Bitcoin anymore. That would be the end right there. But you could forego, you can discuss monetary policy. You could discuss that in the Bitcoin realm. It is the underlying base that everything is built on, and that is why smart people flock to Bitcoin. What's the saying that I have here? That's productive people striking back. That's what Bitcoin is. Productive people striking back against everything that I've discussed today. Because all the other stuff that I discussed is the unproductive masses willy-nilly changing things. That's politics. Politics is not for the productive, okay? A lot of productive people get into it. It has an effect on productive people's life. But if you get into the Bitcoin overlay where we can have debate and stuff and still speak our minds, you don't have to worry about this unproductive realm that is out there. And I think too many people are getting caught up in the unproductive aspects of mainstream society. But can you blame them on this? I mean, if they watch TV, it's in your face. It's in your face everywhere. So I can see why people, it takes a very strong hand to be a productive person and strike back and just say, it's ridiculous. I support the rule of law. I am not going to be some trendster that's going to go with every new guilt-ridden plague of a movement that infests the United States. I'm sticking with what I believe in. I don't care. Fitting in is overrated. That's another thing in when you have debate, when you have open debate. Fitting in is overrated is something that people treasure. In mainstream society today, fitting in is overrated. It's a big deal because fitting in, you better fit in. We're going after you because you're going to be on a blacklist now because you dealt with the losing side. That's not a place I don't want to deal with that type of stuff, man. And that's Bitcoin. That isn't. There are no blacklists in Bitcoin. Okay. We talked about. Okay. And by the way, you people listening to this, I did a bonus episode last night on sportsmeister.com that talks about social media, if anyone's interested in that. And check out This Week at Bitcoin, link to below. Guy Swan, Nick, and Old Ugly Goat were on. I want to leave it with hyperinflation. It took this long to get the hyperinflation of the dollar. I'm just making sure I didn't skip anything. All right, so there's an article by Steve Hanke. Steve Hanke is interested in cryptocurrency. He still doesn't get that Bitcoin is the best. He gets aspects of it. But he's got an article out there at a gold site, actually. Steve Hanke busts hyperinflation myths. Gold investors need to understand this. So everyone needs to understand this. Money supply properly measured through M4 is growing at 29.5% year over year. That's the highest rate we've ever had in recent history in the United States. Okay, so that's very true there, he said. But that's not even close to the amount of money explosion you would need to have for hyperinflation. So the idea that we're going to have no inflation, I don't think that's correct. I agree. We're going to have more inflation. And in fact, when that inflation reaches 3.5%, 4%, I think by the official measurements, I think the Fed will be pretty nervous. The definition of hyperinflation is a higher than 50% inflation rate on a monthly basis for more than 30 days in a row. So there is a big difference between a 29.5% year over year inflation. All right. And what hyperinflation is. Okay. Hyperinflation is higher than 50% inflation rate on a monthly basis for more than 30 days in a row. That's a lot to ask there. So yes, we're living in inflationary times. Perhaps we're going to enter unprecedented inflationary times in terms of the dollar. But that does not mean hyperinflation. So you got to keep it under control when you're screaming about Bitcoin can do really well during unprecedented inflationary times. But when you're talking about hyperinflation, this, hyperinflation, that, you're wrong. You're wrong. You mean it's not close to that. It's not close to that. And you probably don't want that to even happen in the long run. you could be darn happy during unprecedented inflationary times. But going back to the transition between Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan, that was unprecedented inflationary. We haven't been back to that right now. We're not there. We're not there. Look, someone's calling me right now. Maybe I should answer them. They're calling me through the computer. My magical way to do that. Oh no, I can't answer. All right, dudes. Let me see if there are any questions here. This show went way long. All right. There's no. I see there's a lot of discussion. Okay. People talking about buying foreign passports. Dude, the United States passport gets you anywhere, man. It's a darn good one to have. It's a real darn good one to have. I mean, especially if you're out of the United States already, you get to go to a lot of different places. All right, I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, Disrupt Meister. Remember to subscribe to this channel, this backup channel, and to of course subscribe to the main channel. I'm just trying to see. It's unfortunate that I'm on the backup channel now because it's harder for people to get my attention with questions that way. So I hope I didn't skip any questions. You can leave them in the comments section. Thanks a lot, dudes, and I really want to go running. Bye-bye. See ya. Pound that like button.